You know, from the moment we're old enough to understand, we're handed a sort of instruction manual for life, aren't we? A checklist, if you like, a pre-written script for our life. Work hard at school, get good grades, graduate by 22, get a job, get married by 30, buy the house, climb the ladder, have the kids. And then, after 40 years of diligent work, here's your gold watch. Well, you know, not anymore. You get to retire around 65 and finally enjoy your life. That's what's written for you. Fab. It's society's script, isn't it? It's not your script. It's a well-trodden path that promises security and approval along the way. Yay, you're doing great. And even though I pushed against some of these sort of script beat points in my life, you find yourself just getting dragged along into sort of conformity, albeit maybe a little later in life. But I was ticking those boxes. But then I hit a point, maybe in my 50s, late 40s, early 50s, when I kind of looked up and I realised I didn't write this script. And the ending, no, I don't like this ending. It wasn't for me. It wasn't the one I was willing to wait for. So I decided to ditch the script entirely. I fired the scriptwriter. So today I want to talk about what that script is and why it can feel so restrictive, especially as you get older, and what life is really like when you decide to sort of go off-road a little bit and start writing your own story, not society's expectations of what your story should be. The thing about the societal script is that it's incredibly powerful. Sociologists even have a name for it. It's the social clock. It's the unspoken timeline that tells us, you know, if we're on time, you know, like a calendar, a schedule. It's the one that we all dread that we might fall behind. Oh, I'm not married yet. I haven't got a good job yet. I haven't got the kids yet. All that kind of stuff. It's not just external pressure from family or friends. The research I was looking at points to this fascinating psychological idea called a life script, okay? Which is basically an unconscious life plan that we create in childhood, right from our childhood, based on messages that we get from our parents and then from school and teachers, etc., etc. Sociologists identified these things called drivers, right? These little bits of programming that tell us what we must do to be considered okay. You know, things like be perfect, be strong, or the big one for many of us is in our careers. Make sure you please others. And then when you add in the social media world to all of that, and the world and his wife sharing all their achievements, all their key life points ticked off, you know, their checklist of things that the script has written out, saying, yeah, we've done it. Look where we are in the script. Look where we are in life. And it can start feeling all very pressurizing, you know, to make sure that you're ticking off all these key drivers like everybody else. You know, you don't want to be left behind. So we too can be seen to be, you know, conforming and get our social society round of applause. Yeah, I've done it, thank you. You know, and I admit it, for years, I was running on a combination of those things, perhaps without even realising it. I think that's what we do. We just end up conforming. I wouldn't say my life was absolutely mainstream typical. I've tried avoid being, you know, what the kids today might call a basic bitch, you know, like middle of the road, doing what everyone else does, sort of a high street Harry kind of thing, dressing like a store mannequin or whatever it is. I mean, I was working tirelessly like everybody else, you know, but to satisfy this internal programming that said it was, you know, this is what a successful person does. Get your nose down to the grindstone, get promotion, etc., etc. You know, I had a family to support and all of that. Obviously, keeping up with the Joneses is part and parcel of life's lovely script. So you end up building what the research calls a golden cage, you know, and from the outside, this golden cage, it looks fantastic, doesn't it? Successful, comfortable, shiny, nice house, nice kids, nice car, perfect. But inside, it can feel a bit hollow, a bit maybe inauthentic. When I was about 28, my late 20s, I was living the life, you know, so I thought anyway. You know, I had peroxide blonde hair, believe it or not. I mean, hello. I had a super kind of cool silk dragon shirt, like, you know, Brad Pitt in Fight Club. Pity I didn't have the body, you know, and I wore combats and, you know, I thought I was probably uber cool, living around Notting Hill and living the dream, you know. Admittedly, still conforming to certain parts of life's scripts, but it was more commercially successful indie flick than kind of mainstream, bland, boring rom-com, put it that way. But when it came down to settle down, because, you know, you get older, life's ticking away, the next scene in the script is coming along, time for settling down. Well, I did. And the dragon shirts, the combat trousers, they're all ditched, chucked out. You're not dressing like that. Why'd you dress in those for? Out comes the Marks and Spencer's polo shirts. Out comes the chinos. Oh yeah. Oh God, I hated chinos. I hate chinos. All very bland, all very kind of pseudo middle class, ticking the boxes. Yep. Blending in with everyone else. The professional family. Bing. First thing I did when I separated was dump the polo shirts, dump the chinos, design my own t-shirts. It was t-shirts only from now on. No collars, just t-shirts, hoodies, my own design. Bought an Xbox with the kids, took them skateboarding, took them to gaming festivals, allowed them to express themselves, all of that. And basically lived a life I wanted to live, whilst, you know, still admittedly conforming to the idea of what a cool dad might be. But very partially, I rediscovered a small part of my original independent self. I still conformed, of course. I'm not saying I was like way out there, but less near the middle of conformity and perhaps more on the fringes and slightly more authentic. So when I hit my mid-50s, yeah, there I was. Single dad, new partner, cruising in my career. Yeah, sweet. But then I began to question that stage of my life, that stage of the script. I began to delve more into what the script was all about. As, you know, clearly apparent, hopefully, in all these videos I do. Please like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. There's loads of stuff like this if you're liking it. I'm not saying I went full kind of hippie and, you know, society rejectionist, if that's such a thing. I just stepped aside of the crazy middle of the road bit to sort of find my own path and start diverting off the script. But that's the thing about life's script. You just follow it for decades. But for many of us, especially in your midlife, or nowadays more in your 50s, and many Gen Xers as we're getting to that stage in life, sometimes something gives. There's a kind of snap moment. And sometimes it might not be a snap. It might be a gradual process like coastal erosion. For me, and maybe for millions of others, that moment was burnout. Now, when I say burnout, it isn't just being tired. I'm not just talking about that. I think it's larger than that. I mean, my job wasn't as crazy as many people's jobs, and I can understand that's proper burnout, exhaustion. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a cynicism about your work, a feeling that you're just not effective anymore. I mean, you might still do your job very well, but are you an effective human being anymore? The language your colleagues speak. You see it for the nonsense and corporate babble that it is. Work-based cliches kind of repeated ad infinitum, as though we all kind of recognize what everyone's saying and understand this is the language we must speak, as though it has some kind of deep meaning. And in the research I've done, the numbers are wild. Apparently a study found that 77% of workers have experienced this feeling. I mean, it's an epidemic. And I think it's even more so in a society that seems so divisive and messed up and an unstable economy and all of that kind of stuff. The pressure just seems so much great. So it's understandable there's such a large amount of people are having these sort of moments. And this is where the perspective shift happens, you know, in your 50s sort of thing maybe. Certainly for Gen Xers now, you know, it's not that kind of thing we've always been told about, like your midlife crisis when you're buying a sports car. And in fairness, yes, whilst not a sports car per se, it was a Mini Cooper S, but there were mitigating circumstances. I'd been left with a family Nissan Note. A Nissan Note. Oh my God, so dull. Basically, the polo shirt and chinos of the car world. No thanks. Mini is for me. Anyway, that's just my excuse. But experts are beginning to reframe it not as a midlife crisis, because I don't think it's that, but as a midlife awakening, a reckoning, you know? It's a moment of incredible clarity. I love this one idea that I read in the research. Burnout is not a personal failure. It's your authentic self mounting a healthy immune response, like your body's immune response system kicking in. It's a great concept, yeah? Your body and mind saying, I refuse to pretend anymore. This role I'm playing is making me sick. That snap isn't you breaking down, you know? It's you breaking through. For me, it was a kind of out-of-body experience I had. It wasn't really a snap, but there are a couple of key moments I remember. I remember sitting in a meeting at work, and it was like, as I said, an out-of-body experience. Everyone was babbling away in corporate babble. And for a moment there, it's like I left my body and I was looking down thinking, like, what the hell is everybody talking about? And why are we talking like this? Why can't we use that native English language? Why are we using this made-up babble, this corporate nonsense? Is it just some kind of way of saying, you know, if we use this language, does it validate us in the office? I just looked around and thought, I can't face another 10 years of this charade. Then, of course, each year I'd visit my sister in her house in France. She retired early and she seemed to be living the life, and it just started to plant some seeds in my mind. Once you decide you want to write your own script for the rest of your life, and ditch what the society script expects of you, there's a very practical problem. The lock on that golden cage you've built is financial dependency. Society's script has written that you have to consume as well, so buy things, and then you get into debt with mortgages and car loans and everything else, which just seems to kind of tighten that lock, that financial lock, and you need a key to that lock. For me, I knew that at work, redundancies in the shape of voluntary redundancies come round every sort of maybe 5 to 6 years. And I've, either not been interested because obviously retirement seemed such a long way away and it didn't make sense to me, or I missed the axe as it swung round. So it wasn't right at that time, but I did know that redundancy came along. And once this seed, once this thought of early retirement was beginning to germinate in my head, I thought, next time a redundancy comes along, I might go for it. And I remember a colleague of mine many years ago, he was 10 years my senior, and it was during one of these phases of redundancy. And he was about 60, worked at the company for about 25 years. So I knew his redundancy package would be good. And he took redundancy at 60. And I just thought, wow, perfect. What perfect timing for him. I thought, if I'm still here in 10 years' time and that opportunity comes round, I'd do that. Absolutely. 6 years later, so a little bit earlier than expected, yeah, that opportunity came round and I 100% understood his decision. And I too decided I'd take the plunge. Maybe a little bit too early for me, but I wasn't sure that such an opportunity would come around again. And also, why wait if the maths worked out? And the maths worked out. So I made the bold decision, and a difficult decision, because I still have a mortgage left. I've still got a kid at university and a kid at school. It was a risk, but it was achievable, it was doable, and it was more than just a financial decision. It was a heart decision. It was a decision that I wanted to take control and rewrite my script. And so, yeah, I took the plunge. And I know that opportunity doesn't arise for, everyone. But if I'd known then what I know now about the FIRE movement, financial independent, retire early, I would have planned it more diligently. There are so many options, and you can check out, the FIRE movement on Reddit and various websites and YouTube videos and stuff. If you are really at that stage in life, you'll be surprised that perhaps you don't think you could ever retire until you're 60, 65. And that's probably true for many people, but actually equally true if you research it, you look into it, and you really want to change your life. There are different ways to embrace that FIRE movement. You could be FIRE barista, where you sort of take a less stressful job and just earn enough money to get by so you can indulge in your own passions. And if those passions, happen to be a side hustle, good for you. Or equally, really work hard over the next 5 years and save. That's what some people do. This video is not about how to achieve it, but definitely it's worth taking a look and investigating if you're ever in this stage where you feel like, yeah, I want to take a change. I want to take control of the script. You'll be surprised. As I said, I understand Not everybody's going to be in that situation, but it's worth investigating if you're feeling this sort of midlife opportunity, as I call it. Whatever the opportunity there is, though, however you get there, early retirement is you owning your own script and saying, no, I refuse to wait on that checklist thing like I'm meant to and as currently scripted. It's time to rewrite the ending for yourself. But of course, then there's the big question, what happens when you unlock that golden cage and you step out of the capsule, as I once put it in another video? Is it an endless vacation? Well, yes and no. The freedom, no doubt, is incredible, but no one really prepares you for what the research calls the validation vacuum. I've done a whole video about things you need to consider when opting for early retirement, and you can check that out here. It covers all these things you don't really think about, such as, for your entire life, your job has been your sort of social identity. And, when people meet you, they go, what do you do? And you go, well, I'm, former engineer, or I am an engineer. That's kind of gone. So you're faced with a much bigger question of like, who are you now? What's your identity? And then there can be the boredom, the restlessness, even social isolation from your friends. They're all wrapped up in your career previously. And so you've really got to start planning your retirement, not just the finance thing. And I do, as I say, the whole video here goes on about that. And all that planning and thought about retirement and stuff and deciding to early retire and jump ship, as it were, is you basically rewriting the end script or even adding a new act to your script. I like to prefer it more as writing a new act, adding an extra layer, extra depth to this script of your life. It's about you redefining success on your own terms, defining what the kind of purpose of this film is all about, this script. For me, life is not about a job title anymore or anything like that. It's having time to do this, to go for walks, make videos like this. It's my long walks without checking the watch or thinking, oh, I've got to get back and got a Teams meeting or something like that. And it's learning new things that, I'm learning them not because I want to get a promotion or to go up the career ladder. I'm learning things because I want to broaden the mind. I want to find joy in my knowledge and learning and things like that. You move from a life of constant external validation and tick boxing and making sure you're on the right script, you're following the script word for word, to one of an internal generation, of internal validation. You're basically building a new life from the ground up, but based on your own values. This is your own script. And of course, when you step off the main road, especially early in life, you have to be prepared for some raised eyebrows. People will have opinions. Sometimes they'll be concerned. Sometimes they'll be critical of you. Why are you doing that for? Why you're retiring early? What are you going to do? How are you going to pay for it? All of that kind of things. I couldn't do it. I'd be bored out of my mind. Well, that's you, love. It ain't me. But a great piece of advice I came across is always frame your narrative around what you are running towards, okay? Not what you are running away from. It shouldn't be about, I couldn't stand it anymore, so I left my job. No, it should be, I left my job because I wanted to, and then you say what you were running towards to, what you want in life, etc., etc. So instead of saying, oh, I couldn't stand the corporate job or any of that, which, maybe you couldn't stand a corporate job. Say something like, I wanted to focus on my health and indulge in some projects that I've always wanted to do and have the freedom to work on these projects that I'm truly passionate about. It just shifts that whole conversation from one of escape or somehow desperation to one of sort of creation and optimism and encouragement. Maybe they're thinking the same by asking you the question, what are you going to do? Ultimately, ditching the societal script is not just about retiring early. Like I said before, it's about designing a life that's in true alignment with your soul, no matter what age you are. You can start rewriting the script even when you're at work. It all starts with small acts of defiance. You can see my videos on quiet quitting and things like that. Questioning one assumption, saving that $1 extra for freedom, spending 1 hour on a passion that you'd forgotten. Those are the key strokes that begin to write the new story, as it were. The old script, it's been read. This stage is now yours. And your script is going to evolve and it's going to adapt to new circumstances. And as a wise man once said, the hand that writes, writes on. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think about it, you know, about life scripts. Have you found yourself following life scripts? Did you divert from life scripts earlier? Is it something you plan to do? Put it in the comments down below. And of course, if you like this video, please hit the likes, because I like it, YouTube likes it, and it helps people like you find content just like this. And if you're new to my channel, or one of the 83% of people who watch my videos on a regular basis and haven't got round to it, hit that subscribe button, toggle that notification bell, and that way you'll know when I upload videos just like this. And talking of videos just like this, why don't you check out the videos here? These ones here. Oh, you'll love them. Thanks for watching.